Hey, there they are. How we doing, folks? It's Rich again on another project around the house. Today we are working on laying a concrete pad in the back of the house. We've got our pool shed, which is needs to be rebuilt, and so we're going to put it on a concrete pad. So over the last day or so, I've leveled the ground with some sand and some pea gravel, as you can see. I've put in the frame for the concrete pad, and now I'm about to put in the concrete. I'm going to do it differently this time. Normally, when I put in concrete, I would mix it in a bucket and then pour it in. This time, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to dry concrete. They say that it works well, especially for small structures like this. The shed's not very large; it's 4 by 6. And when you put all the pool equipment in it, maybe it's 400, 500 pounds at most. PSI for poured concrete is 3,600 PSI. So I think we're going to be okay. So we're going to go ahead and use dry concrete this time, and we'll see how that works out. I'll go ahead and put some video on here for you to show you how I'm doing that. It's a beautiful day here in Texas. We're going to get to it. There's the pad. As you can see, I've got the pea gravel. I'm just now flattening the pea gravel, and I'm going to go ahead and start pouring the concrete on. I'll get some video of that for you. God bless. We'll talk to you soon. All right, so once you get your concrete, when you're doing a dry concrete pour, most important thing is make sure your forms are level. So we use a long level, and we level them all around, stake them or screw them to these corner posts to make sure they don't move. So we know that it's level and it's tapered away from the house. So we drop about a ½ inch from front to back because we're going over 6 feet, and you drop about between an 1/8 and a 1/4 of an inch each foot. So we're going 6 feet, so that's somewhere between ½ inch and 3/4 of an inch we wanted to drop. So we dropped to a ½ inch, give or take. But the whole point is it runs away from the house. Once you poured in your pea gravel on the bottom, then you tamp that down, make it as flat as possible. You come in and you lay in, now this sitting right here, that's 9 bags of concrete, 80-pound bags each. We now have our 2x4, and we're going to go sawing back and forth from end to end, and at an angle as much as we can to get this as perfectly level to the top of the forms as possible. First thing we want to do though is come along these edges, make sure the edges are clean, so that when we start to slide back and forth, we're not running on top of concrete on the edge already. So we got to go along and make sure that those edges are clean. So that's step one. So we're going to take our trowel, just going to scrape along the edge, throw it back in the middle somewhere. It'll all level out eventually. You just get it off the edge, try and keep it away from the edges so it's in the middle, so that when your 2x4 runs over this, it's going to be a level set to the top of the wood forms. Those of you watching from Michigan, congratulations on the national championship in basketball. And those of you in Lenawee County, yes, the Palmer family still does concrete work. Med Palmer was my grandfather, and in the 50s and after the war, he built a large percentage of Tecumseh from a concrete perspective. Handed that business off to my uncle, Roger, out of Ridgeway. If you're familiar with Lenawee County. He's down in Ridgeway. And Roger's been running that construction business that cement work business, bricklayers, for the last 40 years or so. Now he's at a point where I think he's stepping away. He's done an amazing job. Probably the best bricklayer in Lenawee County. No offense to those others of you that might be bricklayers. But a little family pride goes a long way. Very proud of Roger Palmer and Med Palmer, who was in that construction business as well. I'm going to go ahead and tamp this down a little bit, just to give us a nice base to start from. You want it to be, you don't want it to be 100% tight down in there. You want the water, when we spray water on this, because we're doing a dry pour. So when you do a dry pour, you want to make sure that there's gaps down in there that the water can sink down into. So if you tamp this really hard on top, and don't worry, we're going to go ahead and rake it when we're done, just to loosen it up again. So we're just tamping it to make sure that we've got enough concrete in here and that we're not going to overflow concrete unintentionally. Because as you start to do this leveling, it's going to be real easy to push concrete off the edge, and then you end up being short once you put the water in and it settles. You end up being short, and that's the last thing we want. We want to make sure we got enough concrete in here. Like I say, we've got 9 bags in here right now. You may have put in too much, and that's okay. It'll come off the back side when we do our leveling. So what's going to happen to Palmer Construction or Palmer Cement bricklayers? Probably nothing. Roger's stepped away. Now, Roger's got 2 beautiful daughters, Pamela and Susie, and they did not take on their father's profession. My brother, he runs a ministry over in Adrian, and he did not take on the Palmer bricklayer business, and that leaves me as the only other boy. And I moved to Texas and got into computers and technology, and that left Uncle Roger with no one to pick it up. So here we are, 2026, after 60 years of business. We're getting to the point where Palmer Construction is going to be no more. All right, so once we've leveled it, the best of our ability, not a professional bricklayer, but doing my best. Ran the board across it, scooped off all the excess with a trowel. I'm just going to go back over one more time and make sure we got everything. Just going to smooth it all the way to the end. All right. Next step is to add some water. So we're not going to do any special coping or any special concrete design. We're just going to add some water and start the curing process. So the water you put on the first batch in just a mist. Get the top very, very wet. Let it sit for 30 minutes and come back and do it again. And you do that 6 times. So that's a course of 3 hours. And that 6th time when you come back, you soak it deeply. So that's what we're about to do. You ready? We're gonna get started. All right, so we're down in the final stage now. Gone ahead and watered the concrete several times. You see, you got a couple of wind-blown bags of blowing onto the concrete. But now that it's dried out well, we're going to go ahead and soak it for about a minute on heavy water. That water is going to soak into the final depth, and then and from that point we'll let it sit for 36 hours. You have to let it cure for 36 hours before you put any weight on it. Because it's only a platform for the shed, I'm not going to put a whole lot of effort into making it nice and smooth and edged and all that kind of stuff like you would normally do for a sidewalk. But now would be the time you'd want to get in there with a trowel and you'd make your edges nice and smooth, and then make sure if there's any handprints or any of that kind of stuff, you want to put those in at this stage before you do this final wet. All right, have a blessed day. We'll talk to you soon. All right, so 36 hours curing, and then we got a rainstorm last night, so it cured for 36 hours, and then the rains came in, so we're still a little bit damp, but I'm going to go ahead and peel the forms off anyway. First evaluation from looking at the outside of a dry pour. I'm not happy with it, to be honest with you. it still ends up being a little crumbly on top. See, not all this on top gets solid. Whereas if I mix the cement and pour it in, which is what I've always done in the past, it ends up being nice and thoroughly mixed and solid on top, and it's just not the way this turned out. So I'm a little disappointed in how it turned out, and I probably wouldn't do it this way again. Next time I lay concrete, I'm going to go ahead and do it the old-fashioned way of mixing it in a wheelbarrow and then pouring it in, just because I'm more comfortable that way. So all said and done though, the job is complete. Once I pull these forms off, and I'll snap a picture of that once we're done, and then we'll get the shed mounted to it. All right, God bless. Thank you very much for paying attention, and now you understand the experience of a dry pour and what it might end up like. Take care.